brothers and sisters, to the Mormon Movie Reviews, where LDS movie lovers belong. Today, we're going to walk you through the 1969 classic, For Time or Eternity. Synopsis: a young LDS woman faces the difficult choice of marrying her less active fiancé outside the temple or conforming to the tenets of her faith. Now, I'm not the first person who's ever reviewed this particular film. It's been done by Latter-day Saint Video Vault. And they do a text only version where they give you basically a synopsis and their opinion of it in text only. But we're going to be watching through the actual film. I'm going to take a radical departure from documentaries today into a quasi sci-fi romantic drama. You should be on the edge of your seat. It was produced by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1969. It was a Brigham Young University production. It was officially sanctioned by the church under the authority and direction of the First Presidency and the Council of the 12. That's an explicit endorsement. Where are we? This is space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of what is going to be a very, very interesting film. Are we in Battlestar Galactica? I mean, this is a lot different than previous films. This is Dorothy. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. And I tried to do some research on this. I didn't do some Googling, and I'm going to tell you, I don't believe that very many of the actors in this film went on to do much of their film work either in the church or out of the church. And it doesn't tell us who is playing which part. Outer worldly, outer body experience here. And here comes the narrator.
A prophet of God has said, "Know ye not that eternities ago your spirit, pure and holy, dwelt in your heavenly Father's presence? As you beheld the scenes transpiring there, and grew in intelligence, you saw worlds organized and peopled with kindred spirits."
What prophet? Notre Dame? Warren Jeffs? Why can't you just tell me who this prophet is? Why this secrecy? Is it secret? Is it sacred? Whoever this supposed prophet is this supposed to be Joseph Smith? Is it supposed to be Abraham, J. Golden Kimball? I guess we're never going to know who this prophet is because the prophet is unnamed and the quote is gone to the annals of history. You know what? Maybe this is in the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon. Is this one of the worlds that these souls dwelt on? What is this? Is this
Took
Earth?
upon themselves bodies, died, were resurrected, and received their exaltation on the worlds they once dwelt upon.
Was there like an apocalypse where it was like a nuclear apocalypse where it was blue and then boom, all the nuclear weapons? This is like a really bad temple endowment movie opening scene, and that's saying something. Wait a minute. What's going on? What's this other planet? Maybe this is Kolob. Okay, so I don't understand. We had one planet, and then we're opening on another planet, but it's the second planet Earth. But it looks like they're making it seem like whatever's happening on the second planet, I don't know, maybe it's Kolob, can't say. Whatever we're about to see is happening on that second planet.
And you prayed to your Father in heaven for the time to arrive when you could come to earth, to receive a body, and to do all things according to our Father's counsels and commandments.
According to LDS doctrine, it kind of appears that we're in the so-called pre-existence, or also known as the pre-mortal life. I had no idea that the pre-existence was filled with 1970s hairdos and decor, but it definitely squares with other church films. Let's look at a couple of other films that the church has produced. We have Man's Search for Happiness, which is the first film that talked about the pre-mortal realm.
To understand why you are here, you must first understand your beginnings. At birth, you did not suddenly flare into existence out of nowhere.
Some pretty tripping colors here.
In pre-earth life, you were with your heavenly Father.
Okay.
There, as his spirit sons and daughters, you lived until you were ready to come to earth.
This is a pretty tripping premortal existence. Kind of looks like somebody's been dropping some acid, the pre-existence here kind of looks like the Manti Temple. Let's also check out Saturday's Warrior. It has a good look at what premortal life looks like as well.
Hey, we're all here at last.
Hey.
Hi.
But this isn't a goodbye. It's just sort of a see you later.
And after all the waiting, and finally our family is ready to begin. Yay!
This is a fun pre-existence. These guys are hip. They're happening. By the way, there's one thing in common, apparently, with all these pre-existences. It's only got white people in it. I know what you're thinking. It's just a coincidence, right? It's just a coincidence. Well, it's also in My Turn on Earth, which I'm not going to show. And spoiler alert, It's all white people. I like how in the premortal existence that we still have Relief Society arrangements. That's important. And also, we've got abstract Bob Ross paintings.
To be tested and proved and prepared for the highest privilege of everlasting life. In this premortal state, as you anticipated coming to Earth, it's very possible that you discuss the opportunities as well as the hazards Earth life would present.
The 1860s Mormon is coming out of me. Is this a polygamist relationship? We got one man, we've got two women. According to Brigham Young, there was polygamy in the pre-existence. This is from fairlds.org, which is generally a pretty reliable site. It's an apologetic site for the church. And it says that Brigham Young said that, quote, Adam's father came to him before he went to occupy the earth, saying, here is the wife you have had so long. Now you are going to have one wife to take with to yonder earth. And if any of your other wives ever go to an earth to become the mother of all living, to become an Eve, it will be on another earth, not to that one. So, yes, we know polygamy was in the pre-existence.
The challenge.
Ooh, did you see that? Let me back that up there. I'm not sure if you caught that. I'm going to put that in slow-mo. We're starting to see some serious action here. Okay, check it out. In slow-mo, we're going to see him moving in on her. So you tell me, does this seem like a pretty romantic threesome? I don't know. Check it out. Okay. Ooh, he went in for the cheek kiss, and I think she went in for the neck kiss. Maybe they're just like prudes in the pre-existence. Not sure.
In a world filled with temptation, was no doubt made clear.
Love the angelic
It's hard
soundtrack.
to imagine a world with temptation. Everything here has been so peaceful.
Except that literal war in heaven, in which at least 90 billion spirits were cast into outer darkness to burn eternally in everlasting fire. Other than that, it's been really chill. The premortal life, it's still continuing for people who are not here yet. What time in history are we? I don't know. Let's see if we can clue it together and figure it out. If this is pre-war in heaven or post-war in heaven.
Beautiful.
But on earth it will be different. If it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived.
So he's quoting from Matthew chapter 24, verse 24. So this has got to be post-war in heaven. And how does this guy know so much anyway? And who is he? And why wasn't he my dad when I came to Earth? I mean, he seems like a pretty stand-up guy.
We will be free, though, to choose whether we'll follow Lucifer or our father. But to have the veil drawn so completely...
It must be, so that we can grow.
But there are other reasons for our going to Earth.
To acquire a mortal body.
And to find an eternal partner to marry.
Or
It's
partners.
strange after this union, this marriage, that will be inseparably joined to another soul.
Not inseparably. This union will last forever only if it's performed in the way Father has commanded and by his authority.
Otherwise, we won't have eternal increase.
Ooh, eternal increase. Making spirit babies in the hereafter. It's kind of alluding to that. If we're paying attention, I think we're starting to feel what the purpose of this film. It's kind of coming out. They're really talking a lot about marriage, eternal increase, partners. This film, I'm starting to get the feeling, is going to be centered around the idea of marriage. I do have one other quote here that I'd like to pull up here from Joseph F. Smith, who would be president of the church just a few months after this. Here it is. Some will gain celestial bodies with all the powers of exaltation and increase. Those bodies will shine. People who weren't valiant, certain parts of their resurrected body will not be included, meaning that if you don't fulfill all the commandments here on earth, your procreative body parts will be removed and will not work. Hence, you will not be able to have eternal increase.
Are you frightened?
There are so many ways we could fail. To be there on our own, not remembering how important it is. How much hangs in the balance.
We won't be entirely on our own. We'll be given commandments to guide our lives.
Okay, so he says, don't worry about it, honey. We're going to have commandments to guide our lives. If you think about the total timeline of Earth history, the Earth has been around 4.5 billion years. It took about 500 million years for life to emerge upon the planet. So life has been on Earth, so for say like 4 billion. Humans, on the other hand, they've been on the earth for about 200,000 years. About 194,000 of those years, there were no divine commandments that were given to them. And that's very bad luck for all of those early earthlings. And even in the last 6,000 years, most humans are not aware of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and most have never heard of Russell M. Nelson whatsoever. We've been around for 200,000 years. God did nothing for 194,000 of them. Then he sent some commandments, but then we also had the great apostasy where he also withdrew himself for like 2,000 years. God has pretty much ignored the two biggest population centers on the planet, China and India. There's never been any prophets, no apostles, no sacred records, no nothing. Easily safe to say over 90% of the people who came here to earth either were never aware of God's commandments, they have no knowledge of the pre-existence, and the vast majority of the rest of us, they're totally unaware of the fullness of the gospel. So, I mean, this is an incredibly tough test to pass. It is in stark contrast to what the male spirit says. Don't worry, we'll have commandments to guide us. That is not the case. The vast majority of people who are here on earth.
I feel so unprepared. If only I wish I could see into mortality for a moment.
That'd be nice. Hey, wait a minute. Your wish is my command. Where are we now? It looks like we're back in mortality now. We're out of the pre-existence. And the rest of the movie is a glimpse into mortality. Why does she get to cheat and see the answers to the test? That is not fair. And I don't know why they get to see what's going on down here. We come to find out that this woman's name in the pre-existence, her name is Jan. She apparently gets to see all the answers to the test. That is not fair. If I could have seen all the answers to my life's challenges, it would have made it a heck of a lot easier.
Creepy specimens. Max? Hey, Max, I gotta talk to you.
Okay, well, here's our first introduction here to Max. And Max was not in the pre-existence with Jan.
Later!
I've gotta talk to you now.
About what?
You know, about us.
Not that again.
Oh, man.
Max, I'm not going to marry you outside the temple. Oh, Max, why can't you compromise?
It's only been 10 seconds in immortality. We're already talking about temple marriage. So that is one of the main thrusts of the movie. And by the way, this is one thing that is very challenging when it comes to marriage. She says, why don't you compromise? There really can't be a compromise when it comes to the temple. Either you get married in the temple or you don't. There's no compromising in the middle. It's somewhat of a compromise would be to be married in an LDS chapel. That's not really a compromise.
Your idea of a compromise is for me to do things your way.
Yep.
But you know you could get a recommend with some effort.
She's talking about a temple recommend here, which is the authority or authorization to go inside of an LDS temple, which is only available to members of the church who meet certain high standards. And she said you could get a temple recommend with a little effort. So apparently Max is a member of the church, but he appears to be a lax disciple. I mean, some might even say a lazy learner. Now, this film perpetuates the idea that members of the church who don't have temple recommends, they're lazy. All they need is just a little more effort.
Don't try to change the subject.
Whoa.
Max, I want to marry you, but not for now. For always.
And that's where the title of the film really comes in. Not for now, but for always. A marriage that is not in the temple is for time. A marriage that's in the temple is for eternity, or for time and all eternity.
Look, Jan, you can only live one moment at a time, okay?
And what do you do when you run out of moments?
Good point.
I grew up on my mother's testimony. Dad never was a member. So when I got out on my own, things just kind of didn't add up.
Okay, so he is a member of the church without question now.
Well, like what, for example?
Well, for one thing, it's pretty hard for me to figure all the unhappiness that's found in the world. Look at all the innocent people who suffer through no fault of their own except that they just happen to be alive.
They're walking directly in the water with their shoes on. Come on, guys.
And you think God's responsible for all that?
I agree with Dr. Legner. If God put us here, then he should be accountable for what happens to us.
It appears that Max's differences with the church are not based upon church history or church doctrine or anything like that. And I do like that the movie is providing a space for someone who has doubts. I mean, that seems kind of radical for a 1969 film. Now, Max, he's really wrestling with some of the age-old problems, genesis of evil in the world. He said that he agrees with Dr. Legner. Who's Dr. Legner? Dr. Legner is one of Max's college professors who we're going to see later in the film. Now, the idea of dealing with the problem of evil in the world was possibly originated with the Greek philosopher Epicurus. He said, "Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. If he is able to prevent evil but not willing, then he's malevolent. If he's both able and willing, then from whence comes evil?" And I'll just add my own thought in there. One final thought I will add is, if God created Satan knowing that Satan would cause evil because God knows all things, then is God ultimately responsible for that evil? Now, Jan has an opportunity here to talk to Max about his doubts. Let's see if she's able to resolve his concerns.
I don't have all the answers, Max. And I can't talk as fast as you and Dr. Legner. But I do know that truth and justice will eventually win out.
There you go, waiting your testimony.
Look, Jan, what is truth? Who's justice?
That's all we get from Jan. I don't have all the answers. Not only does she not have all the answers, she doesn't have any of the answers. She has zero answers. And apparently, Jan's apparent solution to gospel doubts or another person's lack of faith is simply to bear her testimony and not actually deal with that person's concerns. And that used to be pretty common.
You know something? You are really naive. And I love it. Marry me, Jan.
Whoa! That came out of right field. Wow, he didn't even go down on one knee here. I mean, he just boom, dropped it on her. Max views Jan as a clueless, naive, misinformed, juvenile girl who is basically unable to comprehend, much less answer, some of life's most fundamental questions that have plagued the humans since we came into existence. And she's not even able to understand questions about her own faith. But let's get married anyway? This cannot end well. And apparently, though, she's going for it. She's going for it. Max, hey, nice job, Max. The way to get it working. Now, I love, by the way, that Max is a bad boy on a motorcycle. I did not see that one coming. This reinforces Max's independent and free-spirited nature. In fact, they're not wearing helmets either. That shows that this relationship is seems kind of risky. He's a bad boy on a motorcycle. They don't wear helmets. He's a real risk taker. What a bad boy, huh? By the way, this looks like it was shot in Southern California.
Jan, you didn't tell him you would.
Okay, do you recognize this woman here on the left? This is who I was postulating might have been in the polygamous relationships. Here's our two spirits. We've got two of the spirits. This is who I was postulating might have been in the polygamous relationship. So here's our two spirits. We've got two of the spirits are back together again. We have Jan on the right, and we have this unnamed woman on the left here.
Jan, you didn't tell him you would.
Well, I didn't tell him I wouldn't. It isn't what he does that's wrong as much as what he doesn't do. He has so many doubts. If Max and I were married, couldn't I study with him and help him believe?
We're changing the baby on the kitchen table or on the countertop where you also serve food? Oh, you got the poopy diapers on the table? Come on, man. It turns out that this is Jan's sister on the left. And the crazy thing about this movie is that Jan's sister, who is one of the three main characters of the movie and appears in a number of scenes and was in the pre-existence, she remains unnamed through the entire movie. They never bother to give her a name. So in order to do this review, I'm going to name her Ursula. Maybe.
Well, he could help you learn not to believe.
Uh-oh.
He could never
Listen, sis. There are enough little problems in marriage. Don't start with the big one.
But we get along so beautifully otherwise.
But consider the other wise. Sitting alone in sacrament meeting while he'd rather be out riding his motorbike or fishing. And later your son's going to priesthood by themselves, if they go at all. And your daughter's going to church alone. And there's always the threat of death and separation.
Ursula, she does make some excellent points. I mean, studies have shown that interfaith marriages, they do have worse outcomes. That's just a fact. It's a sociological fact. They have lower levels of marital happiness. They have higher rates of divorce. They have more difficult outcomes for the children. We're talking about children already? Is that a little early? I guess not. Jan's potential son is going to end up going to priesthood meetings alone. Remember, if a male attends a LDS church, he can go to the priesthood meetings even without the priesthood, although it is a little bit awkward to do so. Talk about a wet blanket. So Jan, hey, I'm engaged. Well, here's all the bad things that can happen. Man, talk about a wet blanket.
There's always the threat of death and separation. permanent separation.
Permanent separation? Wow. I guess it's never too early to accuse your future brother-in-law of going to outer darkness. Thanks for the kind words. I'm sorry that I told you about my engagement. Oh man. Okay, so hey, who are we hearing now? Hey,
Hi, sweetheart.
it's the know-it-all guy from the pre-existence. Wow, based upon how valiant he was in pre-mortality, I expect that he truly was saved for the last days. And this is the perfect Mormon stereotype is confirmed. Ursula stays at home, literally raising babies and changing them on the kitchen table. I guess a woman's place really is in the kitchen. Neither of these women have left it since we started. Now, Paul, on the other hand, he is the handsome husband. He's in a crisp, sharp business suit. He comes home, he gives the wife a kiss.
Hi, my boy.
He plays with the
Come
baby.
and see Dad.
We're seeing a big contrast between this happy, wonderful nuclear family where everything is going great. And look, Jan says that she's engaged. He does not seem very happy here. Look how sad she looks.
All right, what's Max done now?
Holy cow, wait a minute, Paul. How does he know that Max has done anything? I mean, he just jumps right in on Max. Does Max have a history of making people unhappy? Or we're just gonna blame it on the less active member right away? I mean, he is jumping in on Max. Maybe it's Paul has the gift of discernment. We knew that Paul was a valiant spirit in the pre-existence, and based upon his nice house, his sharp haircut, and his expensive suit, we can assume that the prosperity gospel is working very well for him. So maybe he is using the gift of discernment, and he just knows that Max is no good.
He's asked me to marry him.
Sounds like a good moment to wish her, hey, congratulations. This is going to be exciting. Wow, good for you. When's the big date? I'm so happy for you.
Again? That's not news.
Oh,
Jan?
come
Are you
on.
thinking of marrying him outside the temple?
How does this guy know so much? He knew everything in the pre-existence. He comes into the room, he can read it like a book. He knows that Jan's feeling down. He knows that Max is the reason, and he knows that Jan is thinking about marrying Max outside the temple. This guy is amazing.
Hey, Paul, between Max and my roommate, my resistance is getting mighty low.
So her roommate and her, their resistance is getting low, meaning her desire to want to marry inside of the temple.
From Sergeant Darrell Parks?
Sure.
My dearest Debbie, I'm not only counting the days and hours, but I'm now down to the minutes and seconds. Just think, 5 more days and we'll be together again. Have you found a new apartment or will Jan move out? Oh, here's the part I was telling you about.
Okay, so this is Debbie. This is Jan's roommate and friend who's reading a letter from her soldier boyfriend who is named Daryl. And he says that Daryl's going to be coming home in 5 days. And I can tell you, having served in the armed forces myself, that when you've been deployed for a long period of time away from your loved one, perhaps in harm's way, that those last 5 days, they can seem like for time or eternity. They can seem like a long time.
She needn't move. Tell her if she'll hurry and marry Max, we'll let them stick around for a while rent-free. I'm loaded with back pay. I've really had it good being stationed here for the past 9 months. By the way, you'd be proud to know that I went to sacrament meeting last Sunday. Well, gotta go now. Keep the lamp in the window. Yours always, your loving husband, Daryl.
The prosperity gospel is never far behind in these movies. Daryl is loaded with money, and it's no coincidence that has to do with him going to church. Now, think about what time frame we're in. This is 1969. What's going on in the world that might involve military action with Daryl? Obviously, Vietnam. So is Daryl stationed in Vietnam? He said that he's really enjoying being stationed there for the last 9 months. Typically, an enlistment term for Vietnam would be, say, 11 or 12 months. Now, if he went to sacrament meeting that last Sunday, then apparently he's not directly on the front lines, because you're not going to sacrament meeting in Vietnam if you're on the front lines. And it takes a while to rotate back if you're towards the end of a deployment.
5 more days. Do you realize that's an eternity?
Here, best way to kill time is to beat it to death.
The women are still making food. They're either in the kitchen or they're making food.
Hey, if you get married next week while Daryl's home, we can stand up with you.
I'd much rather we'd all go through the temple together.
Give us 3 months. We'll be ready by then.
That's what you said when you married him.
So he's a little bit behind schedule. You heard his letter.
Anyway, I doubt if 3 months would really change Max.
Listen, 3 more months and Max won't even be around.
Uh-oh.
If you love him, you'll marry him soon. Next week while Daryl's home.
How could I do it that way?
I know. It's a tough decision. I went through it myself. But Max won't wait.
Debbie apparently married Daryl outside of the temple.
Satan has tried all kinds of ways to circumvent marriage, especially temple marriage.
That's because it's just the opposite of everything he stands for.
I know it must be wonderful to have a husband and a family that are yours forever. I know it makes you try harder.
You're right, Jan. But there's more to it than that. There's a feeling that comes from knowing that you've done it the way the Lord wanted. You can call on him for help with your marriage, and he'll do everything he can because you've done your part.
If you get married in the temple, you've done everything that you can, so God will help you because you've tried to do your best. A lot of things in this movie are done by implication. The implication is if you get married outside of the temple and you try to call upon God, then he won't help you because you haven't done everything that you can.
Need his help, Jan. Every marriage does.
There's nothing like the security that comes from being married in the temple.
Just look at the look on her face. This is like a heart-wrenching scene here. And by the way, Paul, he is such a know-it-all. I mean, imagine going through all of existence with the certainty that Paul has over every action, every decision, every thought. And he has never wondered about anything, going all the way back through eternity into the premortal realm. I mean, he has no personality at all. He's just like a font of Mormon doctrine. He's like a Bruce R. McConkie General Conference talk clothed in a blue t-shirt. I can personally agree with what Paul said, having been married in the Mount Timpanogos Temple in the 1990s myself. There is nothing like the feeling of security that comes from believing in and being married in the temple. And from a church perspective, I guess the only better feeling that a person could have would be to maybe like get your second anointing. But I'm still waiting on my invitation for that. And if my stake president or Area Authority 70 is listening to this YouTube video and is ready to extend to me that invitation for the second anointing, then please send it to me at mormonmoviereviews@gmail.com. Oh my gosh, look at the heart. It's so heart-wrenching here. Okay, so now we're on a college campus here, and it appears we're going to see Max and Debbie walking along here. And apparently, they're attending higher education in California. They're walking to class together. And by the way, this is Debbie's outfit. Look at Debbie's outfit in this. She looks absolutely, she just looks so gorgeous in this outfit. What a great look. And she's just so fun and full of life.
This all happened in another time, huh? In a gentler age, in an age when Western man still believed in a life eternal, a God, mother, and chocolate cake. In an age.
Now, they introduce characters and scenes in this movie in such an abrupt manner that it's hard to know where we're at. Remember earlier in the movie, Max references Dr. Legner. Well, this is Dr. Legner, so now we can put those two things together. And Dr. Legner, he seems to be making the claim that ancient peoples are ignorant of the modern reality of the death of God. Believing in God is kind of like believing in your mom and chocolate cake. How ignorant and primitive.
Life was relatively simple, and man still had much to learn about his roots and his environment.
If you look at the chalkboard behind, he's lecturing on St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas. He perfectly fits the mold of a liberal college professor with a tweed jacket, godless nihilism, and radical social leftist agendas that we're going to find out later. I mean, it looks like they're taking a philosophy class. Jan, she's an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Max is also a member of the church. They're taking a philosophy course from a godless California-based liberal professor. For Jan in particular, that is extremely progressive and adventurous to take that kind of a class, which is typically not a requirement for graduation. Opening yourself up to these radical ideas can be dangerous. You know, now that I think about it, maybe she should have just gone to BYU.
Dr. Legner, what you said about belief in God, some of us still believe.
Well, that's certainly your privilege. I imagine all of us would like to believe in something, huh? Some overruling providence.
But what if this overruling providence, as you call him, has placed us here so that we can choose between good and evil in order to prove ourselves?
Oh, that's a nice theory. But you see, it's only a theory, and it's completely unprovable.
Dr. Legner is not trying to foist his opinions upon his students, but he's allowing them the mental space to believe however they wish. And I think that that's a great sentiment. But I do want to take a serious issue with what Dr. Legner said about Jan's theory about the purpose of our mortal existence. He said that that's completely unprovable. I strongly disagree. Theoretically, an omnipotent God could reveal himself in concrete ways that would allow for a rational evidence-based faith in him. So that completely destroys his argument. However, I really think that what Dr. Legner is saying is that God has not done so thus far. As a former college professor myself, I can love and appreciate how approachable Dr. Legner is to his students. He's willing to talk to them in the halls. He's inviting them into his office. I don't know if these are office hours, but he's willing to talk to them about any of their issues at any time. He's very approachable. Seems like a really stand-up guy.
Dr. Legner, Does everything have to be proven? The metaphysicians say no, and the verificationists say yes.
Metaphysics is an abstract human invention about the nature of concrete reality. Immaterial thoughts about material things. Metaphysical questions concern aspects of reality that transcend experience. It's one of the four main branches of philosophy. Or should we be going with verificationism? That's also known as the verification principle. It's a philosophical doctrine which maintains that only statements that are empirically verifiable, that is, verifiable through our five senses, are cognitively meaningful. Otherwise, they are held as truths of logic.
You see the age-old arguments. Now, the conclusions of the great modern-day thinkers tend to support the no-God people. Now, there's a well-known playwright here that writes in one of his plays, "The sky's quite empty. The scientists have gone over it with a fine-tooth comb and a telescope, and the verdict is no God, nothing there, empty and sterile like a boiled test tube." Now, Jan, even this is an individual thing. If your kind of philosophy works for you, then far be it from me to try to...
Can't find this quote from this mysterious, well-known playwright. I mean, why does the film need to invent fake prophetic quotes at the beginning of the movie and fictitious playwrights, well-known playwrights? Can you tell us who it is? No, you can't. Can you tell us who the prophet is at the beginning of the movie? No, you can't. So they're inventing all of these quotes when there's so many inspired and great writings to choose from people like, I don't know, from Thomas Aquinas or St. Augustine or from any of the other great playwrights. And basically, Dr. Legner here is talking about atheism, that the scientists have concluded that when you look in the stethoscopes, it's bare. When you look out into the galaxy, that they haven't been able to find God. He's arguing for atheism here. It's all shrouded underneath some highfalutin philosophical banter, but that's basically how he's arguing it. Before we leave this scene with Dr. Legner, I find it very remarkable that the conservative BYU filmmakers would let an opportunity pass to malign such an anti-religious leftist authority figure. The BYU filmmakers have done nothing to assail his position. He's personable, he's knowledgeable, he doesn't force his opinions, seems like a really nice guy, he does a great job with the students. That's really shocking to me that they are just going to let that pass. But spoiler alert, this is not the last we're going to see of Dr. Legner. Okay, it appears that we're taking a trip out to the zoo.
Dr. Legner. He reminds me of the men spoken of in the Bible. Always learning, but never coming to a knowledge of the truth.
Okay, so it didn't take long for us to start trying to chip away at Dr. Legner's philosophies here. So Ursula here is quoting from 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 7, which says that men in the last days shall be lovers of their own selves, ever learning, but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. In other words, the philosophies of men, the great philosophical thinkers, you're not able to get deep levels of truth from those persons. The only way to get truth is from divine sources.
Trying to discover whether or not God exists by reasoning and logic is impossible. My faith doesn't rest on logic, but on my experiences.
So the movie here is now trying to set up a contrast between logic and faith. Why does Paul always have to show up? Can't the ladies have an afternoon out on their own by themselves? Can't they be at home in the kitchen by themselves? Even in the pre-existence, Paul's always there. I mean, my goodness, give these ladies a little bit of space.
So many things have happened to me in my life that I couldn't deny the existence of God even if I tried.
But Dr. Legner really has an influence over Max. And in his zoology classes, Max just can't rationalize evolution and religion. Well, you're a scientist and a teacher, Paul. What do you tell your students about evolution?
Okay, now this is making a lot of sense. Paul is a scientist and a teacher. Why am I not surprised? All that know-it-all persona in the pre-existence is starting to make sense. We're about to discuss evolution, and I think it's kind of ironic that we're doing so at the zoo. So I like the setting of this particular scene.
Well, I tell them that I take organic evolution very seriously.
Wow.
And that there's much that's in it that's sound.
Wow, that is very progressive. There's much in evolution that's sound, and he takes it very seriously. He's a progressive. I wasn't expecting that, Paul.
On the other hand, we don't know everything, and we
Wait a
might
minute.
even have to change our minds about a lot of things.
Uh-oh.
I believe that when we know everything about nature and about religion, it will all fit together perfectly. In the meantime, I keep an open mind and continue searching.
I do want to bring up a quote here of Joseph Fielding Smith, who would become the church president in just a few months' time after this film was released. Joseph Fielding Smith, who is I believe, the great nephew of Joseph Smith, he said that if evolution is true, the church is false. If life began on the earth as advocated by Darwin, whether by chance or by some designing hand, then the doctrines of the church are false. So you can either believe in evolution or you can believe in the church. You can't believe them both.
And I try to give my students the concept of an intelligent, loving God who has made a world so fantastically intricate and beautiful that it truly amazes us.
Paul starts with the supposition that there is a loving anthropomorphic God who is here to take care of all of us. He's teaching this in the public schools or in a public university in California, in Southern California in the 60s. Maybe Paul's teaching at a private school, because I really don't think that kind of presupposition in the 60s in California would really fly. Just when I was thinking that Paul was a progressive, he goes and says that.
To me, there's no real conflict between science and true religion.
Our way is more direct, that's all.
That's because we have a test that science doesn't recognize.
The test of spirit.
I love how all the men in this film have nice, deep radio voices, and all the girls have this nice, high Relief Society voice.
Jan, I'm not made of stone. I can't wait forever.
A man has needs.
But you wouldn't have to wait. Don't you understand? Max, I want you to be what you are, only more so.
I want you to be what you are, only more so. Now, that is an oxymoron if I've ever heard one.
Deeper and truer to yourself.
Maybe you're looking for things that just aren't there.
Maybe.
I keep thinking about Mom and Dad.
Uh-huh.
They had something so special.
Married in the temple.
A warm and deep trust in one another.
Because they were married in the temple?
You
I'm
bet.
sure it was.
Jan, it's such a long time to wait.
Jan's parents married in the temple, and they had something so special, so deep, so meaningful. If you have a non-temple marriage, then you're not special, and that you won't have a warm and deep trust. It's not said, but it's just inferred.
We could get married next week and end all this misery.
I don't want to spend the rest of my life regretting that we didn't do it right.
End all this misery? If you think that being engaged to Jan is misery, then a pro tip here, you shouldn't be getting married, okay?
It would be right. You and me, we're right.
Okay, now, finally, we're gonna. I got to turn this down because I don't want to get a copyright strike from the music here, which is copyrighted. Max and Jan, they're going out on the town, and they're in a seedy, poorly lit bar scene here with a bunch of wicked-looking people here. Some really evil-looking music, very dark and sinister individuals here. Look at this. This is nasty. This is, oh man, this is representing the world. This is the great and spacious building. Okay, so they're here to have a good time at the bar, or are they? I thought they were going to get out in the bar, but look at what they're doing. So we can see Jan here. She's brought a book. You can't see it very well, but Max has a book as well because it's so poorly lit. It's an underground, loud and obnoxious bar lounge club, and they're bringing books. Let's see what kind of books it is that they brought. If they're reading the Book of Mormon, I'm ending this review right now.
Finished already?
No. Jan, how can I concentrate on the life cycle of an orthoptera when all I can think about is us?
They brought textbooks with them to study in this poorly lit bar scene. I mean, talk about your dedicated students. For heaven's sake, take a break.
I don't know how you can concentrate on anything down here. It's loud.
Yeah.
Jan, I like it. It's alive. Things are happening.
Just exactly what I'm not sure of.
Relax. You take life too seriously.
I enjoy life. Every minute of it. But I do remember why I'm here.
Uh-oh.
Here it comes, lecture number 27.
Oh, Max, we just seem to get further and further apart.
When we ought to be getting closer. Now, why does it have to be this way?
It doesn't. Max, come with me to see the bishop. Just talk to him. Explain the way you feel. Maybe he can help.
Is this the best time to be bringing up the bishop in the bar scene? Oh, my goodness, Jan, it's just take a break. Take it easy, Jan. Just relax. There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah, he'll help. Now, brother, here's a list of no-nos, and we'll expect to see you in priesthood every Sunday. Oh, let's see. Your reward for paying your tithing and keeping the word of wisdom will be Sister Jan Breen.
Ooh, that's not half bad of a reward. I kind of like the sound of that. Go to church and get Jan Breen. Not a bad trade-off.
I never dreamed you could be so bitter.
Oh!
Well, Jan, if I am, you'll help make me this way.
It's all
It's
your
always
fault.
either or. Why can't we just be like everybody else?
This relationship is really, really troubled.
Look around. Do you really want to be like them?
All
Oh,
right. All right, you look around next time you're in church.
what?
Do you really want to be like them?
Ah,
Yes. Yes, I do.
testify.
Good people, happy people who live quiet lives and love each other.
Yes.
Oh, Max, you don't even know what love is.
Oh, you don't even know what love is, Max. You have no idea. Getting married outside of the temple, that's not love. Max, you ignoramus. She's, look at that. Look at that shot. It's my favorite shot in the movie. We've had a bit of a dust up here in the relationship, and now we're back in the classroom. And notice, Max is here, and he's not sitting with Jan anymore. Nope, Jan's behind, and look how close these two are. They make a handsome couple.
Things are changing in America and elsewhere.
Notice that Max is taking notes. Boy, she's checking out Max, and everybody's checking out. You know, everybody's checking out Max. Maybe I should be too. Max is a hot, hot number. Jan, she's not paying attention to the professor. She's not into the professor. She's not into this philosophical nonsense. She's looking at Max.
Things are changing in America and elsewhere. Time-honored traditions and mores are being eliminated from our culture.
Notice this is in contrast to the stability that comes from a marriage in an LDS temple and the stability that comes from being in the church. The world is going to try to loosen your mores and get you to sin.
And it's quite possible that the institution of marriage as we now know it will soon become a thing of the past.
Blasphemy.
Excuse me, Dr. Legner. Didn't Russia try that same thing with disastrous results?
I found this article in the Atlantic here, and I'm going to link this in the show notes. But basically, when the Bolsheviks came into power in Russia in 1917, a far left party here that was founded by Lenin, and they set out with a will to destroy marriage. And one of the first decrees of the Soviet government when they took power in 1917 was to abolish the term illegitimate children. At the same time that law was passed, they made divorce a matter of just a few minutes. They made it easy peasy to be obtained at the request of either partner in a marriage. And there was mass chaos. Children were thrown out on the street for lack of support. Max is one smart dude.
I'm not speaking of free love, Max. Now, that's very obviously not the answer. I'm speaking of a relationship between men and women which can be entered into gracefully and just as easily gotten out of without all the ugly repercussions of divorce, alimony, child custody, child support, etc.
Okay, but under the system that you're proposing, what does happen to the children?
Now, mind you, I'm not proposing such a system, but I'm saying that such a code is evolving in America and in places all over the world. Now, as to the children, I'm sure that our government will have refined and extended our system of welfare so as to raise and educate them.
Dr. Legner, he's advocating for a truly radical idea wherein the children of sexual partners, either married or unmarried, would end up being raised by the state. And the cost of this social engineering project would be truly astronomical. So I think what the scene is trying to do is to further contrast the loving and stable relationships, which are supposed to be found by marrying in the temple, with radical, expensive, potentially dangerous, and disastrous social engineering projects that practically no one is in favor of. It's kind of like the message here that the filmmakers are sending is get married in a temple or get ready for radical social chaos where children are either left to be raised by the state or to be raised by wolves. I mean, he just looks down. He's not on board with this. This is Dr. Legner's last scene, by the way. The filmmakers, they can't just let a leftist atheist give good anti-religious arguments. That's unacceptable. So in the final scene, Dr. Legner, he theorizes something that's really radical and insane. It's kind of like a parting shot. Never trust a godless atheist. Okay, so here's Max's new love interest. Oh, man. He didn't take him long to move on. He's over it. So Jan, oh, that's awkward. Jan and Max, they broke up in the darkened lounge scene. Oh, boy. Oh, that used to be me on that motorcycle. Oh, that used to be me. It's not me anymore. I'm very awkward here. They're both having a good time. And we are back. Jan's back with the roommate, Debbie. And look who's back home from his deployment.
Hold on, I'll be right down.
Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere.
So Daryl's back home from his deployment. And Jan, once again, she's looking at their relationship. Boy, she really feels really left out here. Everybody's got someone but her. There is absolutely no better feeling in the world than coming home, especially if you are in harm's way to your loved ones, not even coming home from a mission, nothing. I guess Jan hasn't moved out yet. Remember, Daryl was talking about if Max and Jan got married, then they could stay in the apartment, but they didn't get married, and she's still hanging around. How can they afford such a beautiful bungalow apartment on just a sergeant's salary?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, Jan is really bummed out. This entire movie takes place over the course of just a couple of days. And how do we know that? It's because when Debbie was reading Daryl's letter, he said he would be home within 5 days. But she just said in the previous scene that he had come home early. The entire span of this movie probably takes place over just the course of a couple of days, maybe 3-4 days at the most.
There you go.
How come you're so early?
Oh,
Thank you.
everybody's got somebody but me. Oh, that is very sad. It's heart-wrenching. Look at that. Oh, oh, terrible. What is Jan going to do?
Max,
Uh-oh.
Max, I've got to talk to you.
Okay, well, she's she can't take being alone. And this is where it looks like, are they going to get back together? They're getting back together again. They broke up a short while ago, and talk about a fast rebound. It's only been a day or two and they are back together again.
Too much. Daryl home and now you and Max? What on earth changed your mind?
I finally realized that if I don't take Max on his terms, I won't have him at all.
Are you sure seeing him with Shauna didn't help?
Sure it didn't. So did all those people who saw him with her and told me about it.
Oh, man,
You
that's
don't know her, but she may be the best friend you ever had.
I hope you're right.
Believe me, you won't regret it. Look at me and Daryl. We still wouldn't be married if I'd waited for him to come around. As it is, we've had the excitement of the past year and a half, and we'll still be married in the temple.
Oh, Debbie, in the temple. When?
when?
Well, we haven't talked about it yet, but
Oh,
I just feel it.
oh
He's
no.
getting really close.
Oh, well, she doesn't seem too confident about that. Debbie and Daryl, they married outside the temple. So let's see what kind of relationship they have. Let's see what kind of a man Daryl is. I mean, first of all, we know that he loves his country and he served in uniform, so he's probably a pretty stand-up dude.
You know. Wow, look at here.
Ready? Let's go.
Wait a minute. Before we go, I got a great idea. One toast. What do you
Oh my God. Just when we thought that Daryl was going to be a stand-up guy. Oh man, he's bringing in the champagne? Oh no, Debbie is not going for it. Oh,
I
Max.
told you they wouldn't like it.
Max, even
Hey,
Max
honey,
knew.
It's not the end of the world. Now, come on. They're getting married.
Wait a minute, they're getting married? They're back engaged, so they were engaged. They broke up for a very short period of time, maybe a day or two, and they're engaged again that fast?
Daryl, you never.
Oh, how do you know I've never? Huh?
I guess what happens in war stays in war. My goodness.
Well, maybe it wasn't such a good idea after all.
You think?
Max, we'll save it for my discharge.
Yeah. Come on, everybody, let's go.
All right, we're getting married. Yeah, that was the champagne for the marriage ceremony, and we're driving to the marriage. Yeah, but this movie, it moves fast. Hold on to your seats here. We're on our way to a wonderful wedding here. Look how happy everyone is getting ready for this marriage.
What are you thinking?
Uh-huh.
I was remembering our wedding.
Oh, it must have been a beautiful occasion. Bring a smile
You're
to...
not sorry, are you?
Of course not. Wait a minute. What?
Are you?
Oh, oh my goodness.
Debbie.
Debbie doesn't seem to recall her non-temple marriage with much fondness. I mean, the mere thought of this civil marriage brings her to tears. And there is just so much anguish surrounding these temple ceremonies. It is absolutely heart-wrenching.
Debbie.
When you get home from another deployment, it's like another honeymoon. They've been separated for 9 months. They've only been married for a year and a half, and he's been gone most of the time. He said, "Hey, you remember our marriage? You don't regret it, do you?" And she didn't say, "Of course I don't regret our marriage." She doesn't even answer him and breaks down into tears. I wonder where this marriage is going to be anyway. Whoa, baby! Oh my goodness. Okay, well, this marriage is taking a turn for the worse here. Sin City, baby! Welcome to Las Vegas. I guess that's where this marriage is taking place. We were in Southern California. We drove the 4 hours to up I-15 to Las Vegas. This music in this section, it represents the evil world. It is loud. It is dissonant. It is annoying. I mean, you cannot find a bigger contrast between a peaceful, dignified, refined LDS temple marriage and a Las Vegas wedding. What a contrast. Look at this unsteady camera angles. You know, this is very unsteady. It's highlighting the transitory nature of Las Vegas and a non-temple marriage to begin with. And of course, this is set at night when it'd be the most gaudy, the most yucky.
Here we are, dear. Jan, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world tonight. I really do. Hey, everybody.
Where are their parents? Jan didn't even invite Paul and Ursula, her sister, which apparently she's very close to and lives nearby. Nobody's parents are here. Ursula and Paul are not here. They didn't invite any of their friends or family. Okay, so Max is leaning over. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I'm sorry, that's a little creepy. You're trying to get lucky in Las Vegas? And she doesn't even dignify him with a response, just a perfunctory smile.
Come on, up back there. We're going to a wedding.
He's trying to get these people going. Nobody wants this wedding to take place. Even the friends, they don't want it to happen. The filmmakers are making this out to be a horrible idea.
Good. What took you so long?
Oh, come on.
Let's go, sweetie.
Okay, let's look at where we're getting married at.
How are you? Won't you come in? How do you do?
This is Jan, Max.
How do you do?
My fiance, sir.
Glad to know you. Would you sign a register, please?
He sounds exactly like Spencer W. Kimball after President Kimball got his 1.5 vocal cords removed. Look at that. That's Mr. Golden, the cheeseball pastor, or whoever's performing the wedding here. Look at Max. He's taking an active role. Jen, on the other hand, she's not taking a good role at all. Okay, and look at this chapel here.
I guess we go in.
Oh, no, that music, that bad music. This is bad, bad news. Bad news. That music represents a lot of evil things in the world. Look at this. She doesn't even know if she can go through with it. Oh, what a mess. Till death do us part. That represents, you know, this marriage that you get into. And the flowers are in the garbage, by the way. Just like the rest of your life is going to be in the garbage, Jan. Till death do us part. This wedding is not going to will not be efficacious in the afterlife. Look at that cheese ball. Oh my goodness, this is horrible. Even the till death do us part has a spelling error. We already saw the flowers. You don't have to do it twice. Jen is all by herself. Look how glittery and how disgusting this is. I mean, look at this. She's by herself. She no friends, no family, no mom, no dad. No, look at that. No sister. Ursula's not there. It's just really cheesy. Oh my gosh.
We just let this way, folks.
Oh gosh.
No, wait.
Oh, music.
Jan, what's wrong?
Are you
The music cuts out all of a sudden.
all right? Are you sure? I'm fine, honestly.
How can you possibly say that? You're trying to get married here and you are not feeling it. You are not fine. You are in deep, deep distress.
Max, I wanted to marry you, but I just can't. It wouldn't be me.
Well,
Trust me, Jan.
where have we heard that music before? Is Jan about to do the right thing here?
It's much too important. Believe me, I know what I want now.
And Debbie is nodding. Wait a minute. Debbie was the one who was in favor of this to begin with. She said, get married to Max or you'll never be able to marry him at all. The music here, it cuts out from the evilness of the world as Jan recalls the heavenly music that was in the pre-existence. It's like it's calling her back to the heavenly realm. Max says to trust me, but he is not to be trusted. And Debbie here, she's nodding in approval. I guess Debbie realized that getting married outside of the temple is a bad decision. So just to sum up this entire Vegas marriage scene, the filmmakers are trying to make a non-LDS temple marriage look like a cheap Las Vegas chapel, middle of the night horror fest. No friends, no family, no wedding, no tuxedo, cheeseball pastor, a fiance you can barely stand. No, thank you. Hashtag, I love to see the temple. Where are we going here?
Does it have to be this way?
Are we dead? Is this the afterlife? Did the wedding kill us?
No, it's up to us.
It isn't going to be easy.
Earth life was never meant to be easy.
I hope when the time comes I'll be strong enough.
So I guess we're back in the pre-existence.
You'll be as strong as you really want to be. Remember, we're free to act for ourselves, to choose our own eternity.
If you are strong, you will be happy and merry inside of the temple. If you are weak, you will be sad and merry outside of the temple.
And now, I must go.
Where? Where does he need to go? What does he need to do? Why is Paul so important? Paul is a mysterious figure. And why isn't he taking Ursula with him? And were they married in premortality? So, I mean, wait a minute. Did this really happen or not? Is this a happy ending or is this a sad ending? It's a kind of a real head scratcher of an ending. We can just put it that way. Some final thoughts. Now, it may not sound like it, but I absolutely love this movie. I've watched it so many times. It's really ridiculous. It makes me think of very, very many deep concepts. It is progressive in that the movie gives space for someone who's struggling with faith, but the demonizing of people who marry outside of the temple is a drum that these filmmakers, they just absolutely beat to death incessantly. Now, I just want to cover one last thing, and this is really important. Remember, this was a peek into their mortality, and it's going to help them, right? No, it's not. It's not going to help them at all. It's not going to do them one bit of good. Why? So they got to see what happened in their lives, and so they can decide to make good choices. Wrong. Because as soon as they're born, the veil goes up, and they can't remember anything that happened in the premortal life. So this entire movie serves no purpose for them whatsoever. Thanks a lot for being here. Drop a like, drop me a comment, drop a subscription. And thanks a lot for visiting with us with the Mormon Movie Reviews, where LDS movie lovers belong. So long.